stunning looks than swift.
Well, not the South Africa batting first performance that we've come to expect from Temba Bavuma's side. We speak about the stage, the occasion, the semi-final and the conditions at the Eden Gardens. And Australia dealt some serious blows early on, which meant South Africa, I guess, have recovered to get at least something in the form of 212, one short of the epic 99 score. We'll come to those comparisons in a little while from now. David Miller's played one of the standout solo shows. Glenn Maxwell set that bar quite high. But Miller's played an excellent innings and he's at least kept the semi-final somewhat alive. We look back at a game which clearly saw one team dominate right through the course of that. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Qatar Airways. We'll hear from Dale Steyn and Tom Moody shortly. I'm sure they'll have plenty to say about how that first hour or so went. But Anil Kumble first up. 2-1-2. Is that still a score? Even though what we saw was pretty much an Australian domination for the first part or a large part of that innings.
They have something to fight for. Yes, we certainly believed I was 103 runs short from what I called for. I thought they lost. The conditions were challenging for the batting unit early on. There was a little bit of moisture from certainly the pitch being under covers and the overcast conditions, where Australia, I thought, bowled exceptionally well. And we spoke about keeping Quinton de Kock quiet for a few overs, and that certainly cost that wicket. But if South Africa had lost only 2 wickets at that time, then probably they could have got a bigger score. But wicket is playing well. 212 is something where you want early wickets. Otherwise,
it's still well below par. Right?
It's well below par, but you need early wickets. South Africa will have to really bowl well. They have the resources. I think Keshav Maharaj in those middle period will be crucial. There was some turn on offer for the finger spinners. And Shamsi will certainly get a turn. So it all depends on if South Africa can get a couple of early wickets with the new ball, then it will be an interesting chase.
That first hour, Tom, the first few overs, there was a lot to read from the two teams and what we said in build-up to. Take me through your summations of the first 10, because that's where I guess this innings was decided.
Yeah, look, it was definitely challenging for the batting side. There was plenty on offer for the fast bowlers. We saw that the spin also take hold of the game in the middle phase. But if we were just talking about those first 10 overs, I just felt that South Africa they fell into the trap of thinking that every 50-over game that is played in this day and age is a 300-plus game. And I think when we come across surfaces like this, you need to readjust your sights on what is realistic and what's achievable and how you do try to compile your total. And that total today, anything above 260 would have been a very good score on that surface. But you have to nearly revert back to old-fashioned 50-over cricket and build a platform, bank the first 20 overs and be happy to be, let's say, 70 after those first 20 overs and build your innings from that platform, where it's nearly like South Africa got caught up thinking they needed to get the innings up and running, but the conditions and the quality of the bowling didn't allow it.
Dale, your assessment of the first 10?
Yeah, Tom's hit the nail on the head there. And also, it just looked like there was two different teams that walked out onto the field. Australia came out, I wouldn't say swinging, but they came out doing Australia things when in big tournaments like this and big occasions like this. South Africa looked a little bit nervous, and a couple uncharacteristic shots. Quinny de Kock almost trying to hit one through, play it through over the top or over extra cover, so to speak, whereas you'd normally see him get inside the line and try and hit that over fine leg. A little bit nervy to start with South Africa, and that's why they found themselves 4 down quite quickly. And then I thought Klaasen and Miller were great to get it back to go together for South Africa. But when you lose 4 wickets and then there's a bit of rain and you might lose overs, all these kinds of things, you kind of take the sting out of the game straight away. And Australia just did exactly that in the opening stages. They fielded well, they bowled well, and they looked like they were there to compete from the first ball, where South Africa were just caught behind. And like Tom said, if you could have just banked the first 20 overs and then gotten into the game, they would have been okay. But Australia right now, they just look like a superb team, especially when it comes to these tournaments, when it comes to semi-finals and that. They look unbeatable, don't they? Even with South Africa, with the record that they've had against them in the last couple of years, it really doesn't matter. On this occasion right now, Australia just looked like it was almost boys versus men in that sense. But still, good cricket from both sides to get to this kind of score. But South Africa will feel that they're 50 runs, 60 runs short of what could have been competitive for them right now. The bowlers are going to really have to do something special to win this game.
Yeah, just tossing this back right at you, Tom. When we talk about energy, remember early on in the tournament, we were saying this wasn't the energy that the Australian team usually shows in the field. Dale's point, you sense that was also visible in what we saw from the way the South African batters looked, moved their feet, etc. They were tentative, they were almost intimidated. On the other hand, Australia were stopping everything. There was a contrast of body language displays in those first few overs, wasn't there?
There certainly was, and I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that South Africa didn't make the technical and the mental adjustment to the conditions that were presented. And at the end of the day, that's the beauty of when you do have a surface that is not your predictable 300, 350 plus surface, which you nearly have a predictable template of how the game's going to unfold. When you have a surface that, does provide a challenge against the new ball, and then suddenly spin comes into play, and that also presents a different challenge, you're then having to navigate sort of how you tactically approach your 50 overs and maximise those overs to get a competitive score. And I think South Africa had plan A, and that was to be able to bat and get 300 plus, and they knew the plan A had worked for them so far in this tournament on good surfaces, and we've seen them, smash teams batting first, but they didn't seem to be able to adjust to plan B, and that is when the conditions suddenly change in different circumstances, whether that's overhead conditions or moisture on the surface.
They looked like Rassie van der Dussen was trying to do just that, just soak it all up and just not get out and move forward. If you go through the first 4 wickets, Anil, de Kock, where there's a story to why de Kock's played that shot, Bavuma out of form and not in full fitness, Rassie and Markram. Take me through those 4 wickets and where Australia have done really well or contributed to that, and where the South African batters, if you were head coach, would be saying, what are you doing?
No, I think Dale mentioned that. They were certainly nervy. You saw that with Bavuma. He was waiting for the ball to come back in. He felt that Stark would just come back in. Yes, the first ball was bowled in that fashion, but he expected every ball to be coming back, and he was sort of giving room early on and trying to play the swing. But when it just went across him, he just nicked one. Of course, Bavuma hasn't been in the greatest of form, so that was that. And then, Quinton de Kock, we did mention, if you keep him quiet in those 5-6 overs, because Quinton is someone who likes to get the ball coming onto the bat and then get a couple of boundaries away, and that gets his innings, on the road. But unfortunately for him, Australia bowled exceptionally well, and they fielded well. I mean, there was no boundaries hit in the first 7 or 8 overs, or even more. So that was the biggest challenge. And I thought Rassie van der Dussen batted really well. He certainly felt that he had to take the game onto the Australians, and if you kept in your crease, then you would get nicked off because of the surface. So he did make that adjustment. Unfortunately for him, he perhaps overdid that, and it was a good ball to Rassie. Yeah. I mean, with Markram, again, he got a couple of boundaries, but unfortunately it was too wide, and he just
to force it.
He was forcing things on that surface. Because at that stage, I thought if South Africa could manage, forget the runs, if you don't lose a wicket till the 20th over, and lose only 3 wickets or 2 wickets, if you could have been two down by the 20th over, they would have easily got that 275 or 280.
Yep. If we just look at how teams, if they've ever had such a poor start in an ICC knockout game in the first 10, it's right up there. It's not the numbers you want to be seeing if you're in the South African camp. But when we're used to seeing this team blaze away, or at least give themselves the foundation to get 300 plus, 18 for 2 is second lowest in terms of 10 over totals in men's knockout games. Now, we know that no team recovered from this. Pakistan went on to the final, or the semi-final rather, in 2011. The West Indies in 96 went down to Australia, who did end up as runners-up. India, Kenya in 2003, and then India, New Zealand at the last World Cup where they just did not recover from that. Dale, your assessment of how Hazlewood bowled and why they could not get anything away, those wickets falling to their, yes, conditions were helpful, but 8 overs, 2 for 12 is quite something.
Yeah, that's quite something. And when there's a little bit of overhead, we said it before the game even started, Josh Hazlewood. And this bowling lineup from Australia, let me just say, this is the same bowling lineup they pretty much use when it comes to test matches. And when you're going to run in and you're going to bowl 50 over cricket, it's an extension of 2020 overs, but it's also just a little bit lower than what you do in test matches. They're going to run in and they're going to do exactly the same thing. They're going to hit that 8-metre length pretty hard, and when there's something in the surface, the bowlers are always going to be in the money, in the business to picking up wickets. And Josh Hazlewood, he's not going to change his plan. He's going to run in, he's going to force the length real hard, he's going to hold his lines and his lengths in particular really tight, and force batters to eventually try and make a play and make a mistake. We saw Russie just get a good one. He almost worked Russie over there at one stage, but the nerves was a big thing for me with the South Africans. Temba, you're going to get good balls with a brand new ball. Out of form, nicking one. Aiden's first ball, he tried to force one off Hazlewood, a little bit of extra bounce. It just tells me that they didn't really soak up that pressure. And when you allow a good bowling lineup like Australia, this is the same bowling lineup, like I said, they use in test matches to just run in and hit a length real hard. They're going to do that. They're going to put you under pressure, and it's going to be extremely difficult for boundaries to come. And like we said, what was it, the first 7-8 overs, there was hardly a boundary that came.
Yep.
And then you're going to start looking at ways to get boundaries like Quinny did, and you're going to play uncharacteristic shots and you're going to get out. And when you're 2 down after 20 overs, that's fine, you can recover. But if you're 4 down, you're in big trouble.
And 8 overs, 2 for 12, Tom, for Hazlewood. If the game goes 50 overs, you're almost sure to get 2 more overs to complete your quota. Any reason why he didn't?
I was thinking the same, actually. Yeah, look, I was very surprised that Hazlewood didn't come back into the attack and not only just complete his, set of 10, but, Hazlewood's probably, outside of Stark, best equipped to be bowling at the back end of the innings. I was very surprised with Pat Cummins going back to Zampa, particularly when Miller was still in, because it's nearly, we talk about matchups in cricket, whether it's in any form of the game, and that matchup is probably the gift matchup for Miller. If you were to ask him what he'd prefer, he'd take Zampa ahead of any of the off spinners or any of the pace bowlers. So that was an unusual decision, and it sort of boosted South Africa's total over 200, which it shouldn't have got to. Hazlewood, again, a master of his craft in conditions that were in his favour, but South Africa failed to throw him off his length. And I'm not saying by throwing off his length, teeing it up and trying to slog it out the ground, just maybe batting out of their crease or using their feet, from time to time, just letting him know that you're not prepared to sit on the crease and just wait for a loose ball, because that's not coming.
But it got really difficult. Then came some sort of some resurgence from South Africa, some fight in this semi-final through Klaasen and David Miller. Let's talk about the David Miller innings. What did he do differently, and how good was that?
Well, he soaked in the pressure, and he just waited till things got easier, which meant that as a batter, you have to spend time, you have to respect the bowling conditions, you have to respect the ball and the bowler, and that's exactly what he did. And that partnership between him and Klaasen, certainly gave that impression that, look, it got easier as the overs went to 20, 22, and then suddenly, things became easier. And then once Zampa, he took to Zampa as well, because as soon as he lost his length, he was fuller. He got a couple of sixes, and then he was on the go. So Miller has done exceptionally well in these kind of situations for South Africa before, and also the experience of having played in India for such a long period of time has certainly helped him master the spin. And in those middle overs, him and Klaasen, where it looked like as though they're going to get easily 270, 280 with these two batters. One of them get 100, and the other bat till the 40th over. Unfortunately for South Africa, Travis Head was the master stroke.
My God, let's put that in a separate conversation, because you're going to have a lot of hard work to break down how Travis Head has bamboozled them with his off spin. But let me finish the chat on Miller. Dale Steyn's played a lot with him and knows the man well. He's played a lot of breathtaking innings in in white ball cricket, Dale. But was that his most impressive one? Where do you rate that innings from Miller?
Yeah, this innings, and there was one innings where he played against Australia in Durban a few years ago to get South Africa over the line. There's probably his two best ODI knocks that I've watched David play. This one was great. You know, on the occasion, semi-final, you walk in, your team's 4 down, and they need you to do something and put your hand up, and he certainly did. And Anil's right. You know, over all the years that David's been going to the IPL, he's now familiar with those conditions. They're not foreign to him. He took his time, and Eden Gardens is a ground where if you get the ball in the gaps, it's going to be 4. So his boundary count was exactly where it needs to be. When he got bowled a bad ball from Zamps, 1 or 2 full tosses, or in his arc, you know that Dave's going to throw his arms at it, and he did, and he's got the power and the ability to clear the ropes, which he did again. But just a wonderful knock all round. You know, had South Africa, had they not been 4 down when he came in to bat, he could have certainly scored this 100 still and found South Africa at 260, 270, somewhere there. That would have been incredibly competitive today. But a great knock. You know, even if South Africa go down losing this game, there's a chance, because it's not a total that they would want. This knock will still be a wonderful knock. A semi-final 100 is a great knock. They're going to have to do something special with the ball to just add on to that. But this knock will not be forgotten. It's a great 100. Anytime you score 100 in the ODI against a top quality team like Australia in tricky conditions, it's going to be a good knock.
Well, until yesterday, we didn't have 100 in a losing cause in a World Cup semi-finals. So, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. But Tom, in particular, he took a liking to Adam Zampa, probably the best spinner of this tournament. 6 sixes of Zampa today, a number of those of the bat of Miller on what is supposedly a turner. Zampa seemed to not have any real effect. You can add to Miller's innings and also carry on with why we didn't see the best of Zampa today.
Yeah, firstly, with Zampa, I think, you know, any bowler can have an off day. You know, he's been a revelation for Australia. He's one of the main reasons Australia's playing this semi-final, to be fair. You know, it wasn't until he recaptured his wicket-taking form Australia you know, set sail in the right direction in this tournament. And, you know, I think certainly before this match, I think Shami's taken over as the leading wicket taker, hasn't he? But anyway, he's right up there as, you know, in the leading wicket takers for this tournament. So look, he's had an off day, and that you're allowed to do that. It's like good quality batsmen can nick off early in an innings too. And but it's the key to it is recognising that from a captaincy point of view and making the tactical changes to accommodate you know, someone having an off day. Miller, what I admired about Miller's innings was that he was patient. He got himself in and familiar with the conditions, and he identified the boundaries and the bowlers that he needed to target. And Zampa was in his sights, as simple as that. He didn't back himself against the ball turning away from him, whether that was Maxwell or Travis Head. He felt there was probably too much risk in that unless they dragged a ball down. But Zampa, he felt that if he got it full, he had the power to hit him out the ground straight, and if he was slightly short, he obviously had the power to go leg side, which is his strength. So again, just the smarts around Miller's batting was absolutely on point, and it was a real sort of lesson on how to bat in the middle order to, number one, resurrect the total, but also navigate difficult conditions, but identify bowlers that you can take down.
Right. Travis Head, who just changed the course of the game after it looked like South Africa had come back in it. Explain that over, Anil.
Yeah, obviously, Klaasen found that, okay, this is the over that I need to take him on. He took him on the first ball and the second ball.
Yes.
But the third ball, when he bowled that short one, it spun a mile. He looked to go through covers again, Klaasen, but perhaps that was in the mind when he played that shot, when he got out. He expected the ball to turn, and he had compensated for that when he defended. Perhaps, any other batter who was a front foot player for spin would have probably played it along, or probably would have knocked it over long on for a
That's
six.
what we expect from Klaasen.
Yeah, I know, but he's more a back foot player. He is looking for that short delivery where his the way he played Maxwell on a couple of occasions where he hit those sixes was of that type of delivery, where it was slightly pitch short. He was right onto it in a flash. So that's something that he was expecting. It was pitched fuller. He played for the turn, the ball went straight. So, yeah, classical off-spinner's dismissal.
And the Janssen one came after, because Janssen, we know, has played some very handy cameo or supporting act roles.
Yeah.
But what's Travis Head? Is he just reaping the rewards of what's a turner? Can we call the surface a turner?
No, it certainly spun. He probably spun the most amongst all the spinners today.
Why?
On display.
Why did Travis Head spin it more?
His pace, and he gave it I mean, you can see that his action, he certainly gives it a tweak. For Marco Janssen, who's 7 feet tall, I don't know why he was playing off the back foot. I mean, you put your front foot down the track, it's impossible that you will ever get LBW. Yeah, he played off the back foot. That one spun, and I think that's one of the reasons. So that's why I'm saying, when South Africa come on to bowl, they can take a leaf out of that, and then Maharaj will certainly get that turn, and Shamsi too, because he's someone whose pace is suited for the turn here at Eden Gardens.
I wonder if I had both these two gentlemen at that time watching that over, and as soon as Head gets Klaasen, I wanted to see exactly what the expression on both of those would have been, because we were all going, oh my God, and there was a bit of a chuckle as well, because you thought, how is Klaasen soaked in the pressure and then got out to Head? And to add to that, Head's got 2 in the over. If you can recall your expressions respectively, gents, you can do it for me right now before I go to each of you for a response. But yeah, Dale, you first.
Have you not watched my movie, the one movie I acted in? My acting was so terrible then, I can't do it again. No, it's horrible. But, no, I was pretty amazed. I was just like, it's a pretty stock standard delivery for Klaasen that. It's probably played for turn, like Anil said. The previous one is spun, so he's played for turn. And classical off-spinner's dismissal, as he says. And then Marco Janssen being so tall, I was also expecting him to go forward. But a little bit of nerves, just rock back, LBW. And what an over by Travis Head. He was turning it, I thought he was Harbhajan Singh there at one stage. He was turning it so much. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But, and something that changes the course of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, the first thing that come to mind was, apart from the shock of, Klaasen missing that, because normally, he's got a barn door playing spin, was the fact that what came to mind was that sometimes a batsman, when a part-timer comes on, suddenly their focus and attention to detail is slightly goes amiss, where if he's facing sort of your Zampas of the world and other sort of high-end, regarded specialist spinners, you're very much on point. And I just felt maybe just that concentration and focus just went missing there after he got, an early boundary away and thought, well, okay, I can really take this over down or the next couple of overs down.
All right, Travis Head, the premier off spinner, has now been promoted to open the batting. So nice to see that. He's going to come out with David Warner. How do we expect this to go? Can South Africa make a fight of it? Can their spinners have a say in this, Anil?
I think if South Africa can do anything here to get really Australia close to the target or perhaps win, is to get the top 3 quickly. We have seen that Australia, whenever they've chased, they chased down Bangladesh more than 300 runs thanks to Mitch Marsh and David Warner getting those runs up front. So if the 3 batters you can get cheaply, then the spinners will certainly have a say.
Yeah.
If Australia get off to a good start, which I'm sure Australia would like to come and sort of dominate, they would like to sort of take the pace onto the South African bowlers, then it's going to be a tough ask. If South Africa can get them out in the first 10, 15 overs, 3 down, 40 for 3, then the 2 spinners will certainly be handy on this surface.
You see them coming out and just blazing away, Tom, not minding if they lose 1 or 2, or do you see them understanding that, we can lose the semi-final in the first 10, so let's just take our time over here?
I think they'll come hard. They'll put South Africa under pressure. Won't let Marco Janssen settle, or they'll at least attempt to prevent him from settling, and Rabada with a new ball. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Bavuma go to someone like Markram early on to get the ball spinning away from the 2 left-handers.
Dale, very quickly, they need Janssen to have a good day. Sometimes when he starts, you could tell it's not going to be his day. They need the best of Janssen today. Prediction and South Africa's best chance to defend this is?
Yeah, if South Africa don't go searching, then you'll find that they'll probably get those wickets. If Marco goes searching, then he's going to miss his area, and it's going to be pretty easy for Warner and Head to get their runs going. So they're going to have to try and hold their length for as long as possible and build pressure as opposed to searching for wickets. But yeah, I think that Australia will come out blazing in the first 10 and get themselves to, close to 70, I'd even guess, and make it easy for them to get into that middle period where the spinners are bowling to knock off this total.
There's been action in the first 3 balls itself, play and a miss, then a blaze away for 4, and now a tentative leave, or rather a close leave. The ball will still move, so there could still be assistance?
Yes, and even the bounce. It's a bit tennis ball bounce on the surface. So you can't just go through with your shot, especially with the new ball. So yes, Australia will certainly come hard at South Africa. So if South Africa can get a couple of inroads here, then it's not going to be easy. We have seen Australia struggle against Afghanistan until that amazing knock from Glenn Maxwell. So yeah, anything can happen. So it's a score where you would the temptation is to sort of say let's go hard in the first 10 overs, get to that 60-70, and then just knock it off. But if by doing that you lose a couple of wickets, then suddenly
you keep the opposition
still in the game.
Prediction: win for Australia, win for South Africa, or the second ever tied Australia-South Africa World Cup
I know
semi-final?
it's one run less. So yeah, I mean I think South Africa will make a game out of it, but it's not going to be easy for Australia.
Yeah, but close win for Australia. You're saying, right? Tom Moody, very quickly.
Yeah, this is the 21st game they've played, and I think Australia is going to be winning the 17th out of the last 21 games.
Dale.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree. Stats don't matter when it comes to today's game. It's what you got, and I think Australia will probably win by 5 wickets.
He's too nice, Dale. He's too nice, Tom. You shouldn't be doing that to him. He's the nicest man anyway around. Thank you very much to Tom Moody and Dale Steyn, Anil Kumble as well. More from them at the end of the semi-final, where we will finally know who plays India on the 19th. So join us then for Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Qatar Airways. Download the mobile app if you haven't already. Hopefully no more weather interruptions, and we should get a result in normal time. Let's hope for a close one, though. It is Australia-South Africa after all. See you at the end of the game.
Stunning looks, then swift